And welcome, everybody, to another 3 Points of Light. I am Mama D, Darlene, your hostess, and we also have in the house the ever adorable Jennifer's Journey. Say hey, Jennifer.
Hello, everybody.
You in a while? You've been busy?
Yes,
keeping your head down, staying.
No, keeping my head up. Keeping my head up. It's all a beautiful thing.
Excuse me, madam, I'm here as well.
I'm about to introduce, don't get your knickers on it, Miss Brian-Clover. And for everybody who doesn't know, this is Brian-Clover, our other host. Say hey, Brian.
G'day all. How's everybody?
We're fine until we let you talk. Okay, but let's get down to serious business here. We have two very interesting, I'm going to use the word interesting guests tonight. We have Eric Glynn, who most of you know, and I think Michael Rogers, with that little face, is probably about as interesting as Eric is. Something tells me it's going to be a very interesting evening with a lot of shenanigans going on and talking about grands. And so, Eric, say hello.
Hello.
Michael, say hello.
Hello.
Okay, so see, Michael doesn't talk yet. So, all right. We know a lot. We know a lot about Eric because he's been around a while. So you're going to be the first one to be picked on tonight, Michael. Not only are you just going to talk about your grands, but I'm going to have to let people know a little bit about you. So I'm going to leave that one up to you.
Okay. Well, I am 29, professional working medium, have been for coming up 20 years. Started working with spirit at 8 years of age. Started through my, could say, quite domineering grandmother, just a tad. So yeah, it's a little bit about me. 5 children, 4 stepchildren, 1 of my own. So constantly busy. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Well, that's a very tiny nutshell from what I understand. All right, Eric, since
Yes.
I'm really not needed here, I'm just going to sit here and y'all can just check out my beauty. Eric, Michael, go ahead. Tell us about your grands. Very special ladies, from what I understand.
No problem. First of all, I'd just like to thank everybody in the chat room for coming to the Eric and Teddy show. And we're just going to start off now, and I'm going to interview my good friend Michael Rogers, who happens to be here. And that way that Darlene can just sit back and relax and do what she wants. But both myself and Michael, and he won't mind me saying this, we were brought into spiritualism and into mediumship by our grandmothers. The thing is that our grandmothers tended to have a little bit of a different attitude to teaching spirit. And whereas my grandmother was, shall we say, loving and nurturing, Michael's wasn't. And Michael, I just said there that your grandmother wasn't. And can you tell the people in the chat room just a couple of anecdotes about Jean's loving and caring nature?
Jean's loving and caring nature, yeah. She was. I mean, I think it's important to kind of point out, Nana was a very loving lady in the capacity of grandmother. She was. However, in the capacity of kind of spiritual teacher and mentor, she was horrible. As I say, I came into it at such a young age, and sat in development classes. Started really developing my mediumship at about 15 years of age, and she was horrible. I spent 2 years, the first 2 years, under my nana's guidance and instruction, absolutely unable to speak. She wouldn't allow me to talk. She wouldn't allow me to ask questions. She wouldn't allow me to give messages. She wouldn't allow me to do anything. I literally had to sit and listen. And in the same capacity, my Nana would never answer a question. I'd say to her, I noticed you were doing this, or you were talking about such and such a subject. What does that mean? And she'd literally just throw a book at me head. Literally, this is no exaggeration, she would. I do smile sometimes, Jennifer. The kids are asleep now, I'm happy. And she would, I'd have to read that book and I'd go back to her, and say, was that right? Have I got that right? If not, the book would just hit us with the book as opposed to throw it at me head. And if I was, she'd move on to the next thing. But she was so kind of very strict, very clinical, her development and her way of working. So yeah, she was interesting.
I mean, the thing is that I had a different situation, is that my grandmother dragged me up onto the platform at the age of 7 and started me working with messages then. And my upbringing was very hands-on in the fact that throughout my formative years, she was making me work, and I learned by getting up and doing it. But you came the route that a lot of people had then, which was to actually, in inverted commas, sit for spirit and learn the craft that way. And I know that just to put it in the kind of perspective that people were talking about, can you relate to the people in here the story about your grandmother's choice of vehicle that she bought?
Which one? There were several.
Yeah, the red one.
The red one, right. Just to sum this lady up, my Nana lived in a little village, very, very small, very quiet, very rural kind of community. And within this village, there was a little garage. And this is a lady, she went out, supposedly for a loaf of bread, and a pint of milk, and come back with a fire engine. An actual fire engine, kind of pulled up. She beat the horn, and there it was. I think that lasted about 2 weeks until she kind of the realization hit her that it was actually a fire engine and completely impractical. But then I think it was about a year or so later she went out, and again, supposedly going to the supermarket for a weekly shop, and come back with, I think it was 29-foot RV, big American wonderful thing, and just came back with that. She was so spontaneous, my Nana, very, very kind of spur of the moment, and things like that. There's several other stories, as I'm sure I'll have the opportunity to kind of enlighten you all with as the evening continues. But yeah, she was just nuts.
Yeah, I mean, the difference being that my grandmother was very, very caring and kind, and she used to get behind me and nurture and, try and get me along on the right pathways. I certainly didn't have to duck any books. But the thing is that when you're brought up that way, you think that you can do no wrong, and everything's sweetness and light. And that was for the first few years. That's basically what I thought. But I would imagine growing up with Jean, it would be slightly different.
Oh, total opposite. I mean, I could do no wrong in her eyes, when it came to kind of everyday life, in school, and growing up and just being a teenager, I could do absolutely no wrong there. However, take that into the context of kind of my work, my spiritual work, it was looking back, because I have to point out she was lovely with everybody else. I mean, and I had many students over the years, and she was so kind. I'm engaged, sweetheart. And she was so nice, so kind, so loving with all of these other students, and she'd nurture and she'd ask questions and she'd demonstrate. But for whatever reason, she was just horrible where I was concerned. I mean, when I got to the point where I was demonstrating, I was standing up in open circles, or I was taking the platform with her. She literally kind of just stopped us if she thought I wasn't working at my full potential, or I wasn't establishing a link in the way I should be. No words. She'd literally just kind of pull us by the back of my shirt and sit us down. And that was it. Job done. There was no kind of middle ground with her at all. It was either right or it was wrong. Which I suppose, kind of looking back in hindsight, I just thought she was a horrible lady. Hated it. And massively questioned her methods, I suppose, and the reasons why she was doing it. But yeah, that was her.
And I know when, on the rare occasions when Nellie got herself a bit perturbed, it was with what she used to call dumbed down mediums. Is the trivial link, or the non-existent message.
Yeah.
Same message, different people, different order. You know what I mean? And she used to get herself really annoyed with that, because she thought that it's now what my guy Teddy calls the 5-minute medium. Somebody who's been on here 5 minutes and they think they can give messages, and that's great. They found the system. The system works. It works for 80% of people. Let's do that. The real mediums work with the other 20. And I know that you have views about that kind of thing as well, because obviously we do tend to talk.
No.
Yeah.
Drives me nuts, and I think, looking back on kind of my pathway and stuff like that, as I say, 2 and a bit years I'm able to speak, and then further years reading, I've read everything. It does drive me nuts, but it's the way. It's the way of the world. I'm proud of my development. I'm proud of the way I've learned. I'm proud of the work I do. I have put the work in. Sat in many classes, not just me nanas. I've studied many different spiritual colleges. She took us to Stansted.
What did you think of Stansted?
My opinions on Stansted.
No answer was the stern reply.
Stansted, I've been many times, and I have to say Stansted, back when I first started going, when a wonderful lady by the name of Judith Seaman was at the helm and president of our wonderful union, was fantastic. I was there about 8 months ago, and in all honesty, wasn't for me.
Crap.
Leave it at that. It is crap now, yes.
Yeah, I believe. In a slight diversion to what we're talking about, is the Arthur Findlay College at Stansted, and the slight diversions we've got now into the SNUI, which is the internet wing of it.
Yeah.
They've sort of gone, oh my God, we'll have to do something, and throwing stuff together, and it just doesn't work. But back to Grants. Were you? Well, I know that you were, like me, dragged around the churches when they're on, and just like Nellie, 30 years previous to your Grant, people used to be in awe when they used to arrive, and they used to be like, ooh, couldn't do no wrong. But did you ever witness anything where Jean actually had them sit there with her mouth open going, oh my God?
Several times. My nana had a wonderful ability of just raw kind of evidence, raw evidential mediumship. She had an ability of describing someone's current situation, or describing spirit, or, loved ones from the world of spirit, with such kind of personality. And I think that's a major part of my work now. I strive to get the essence of the person, the essence of who it is I'm bringing across. You know, to me, it's not enough to just say, I've got a gentleman here, he passed of a cancerous condition. Yeah, that could be one of 10 in my family alone, just thinking off the top of my head. Give us something. Give me the essence of that person. What was this person like? And I can remember one instance. My nana described this gentleman, and I'll never forget it. She described the way he looked, the way his personality. She described what he did for a living. She then went on to describe this gentleman's. We'll go for weekend activities, and the fact that he was quite partial to dressing up with a lady on the weekend and going out and stuff like that. And I'll never forget this lady's face. You know, and just the laughter just erupted around the church. But she also had a wonderful way with words, my nana. She could kind of cause offence in about 2 seconds flat. You know, and some of the things she said, she did literally kind of just take the breath out of people. You know, and I used to be sat behind her, you know, bearing in mind when I first, you know, I think I was 8, as I say, the first time, you know, I was sat behind her, kind of listening to this absolute nutter of a lady, kind of demonstrating and saying what she, I used to be terrified to kind of having to follow that and kind of go on from that. But she was wonderful, bless her. She was good at what she did.
Yeah, I mean, I had the different situation in the fact that that Nellie used to be so soft and so flowing with, and again, just like yourself, I don't do names because names mean nothing. They're totally irrelevant. And everybody sitting in the chat room now sort of looking at the monitor going, what is the fat guy talking about? But the thing is, though, that names are irrelevant.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not doing any reading now, but if I said to everybody in the chat room, well, I've got an Anne there, I've got a John there, I've got a Jimmy here, I've got, you know, even names that you think are unusual with the Avrils and the Aprils and the Mayas and things like this, they're not.
Nope.
And if anybody's watched a cold reader work, you will understand that. Because you can hit names, no trouble at all. And I learned very early on, back in my 20s, that if I was doing a real rubbish reading, if I threw out enough names, eventually people would think that I'm doing really well. And I wasn't. So the thing is that I said to Spirit, I need to do something different. And like you go on about the essence of person and what it's like. I use relevancy, you know, different ways of getting there, but we'll both get to the same thing in the end. The difference being that when Jean would go bang, bang, bang and take people's breath away straight on, Nellie used to try and do it very subtly, in so much as that she would stand on the platform, she'd be talking to the person, she'd be giving them information, and then the person would look down and she's 2 foot in the air, levitated off the platform. And the person would then sort of look and go, ah! And then Nellie would just gently come back down to the platform and carry on giving the message as if it was just nothing. And or she'd sit on a chair in the middle of the stage in the platform, and she'd be given messages, and the chair would just rise as she gave messages, and she'd give 2 or 3 messages, levitated, and then down would go the chair again, and people would just sit there and think, "Wow!" But back in the 60s, that's what mediums did. That's what mediums did. They did that. They did the ectoplasm. They did all the rest of it. You know? But it's not, you know what you do? Now, you've got people running around emulating John Edwards and James Van Pryor and Colin Fry, bless them, and thinking they're wonderful. Yep. And the only thing that ever happened, I was sat in, I don't know if you were in Bedlington Church the night when Doreen let fly, bless her.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all the mediums cringed because we were in a church and a lady that rang another church came to do the service, and she said basically the only reason that the churches were booking mediums was because they had to fill slots. And that basically most of the mediums working on the platform now were rubbish.
She did.
And I can just remember us all sitting there going, oh! And then the thing is now, bless her, she's passed to the higher side of life, and she was absolutely true. You know?
110%.
And that was the point. Yeah, 110%, and that was
10%.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, being on a church committee myself, vice president of committee, in booking mediums, you do get these mediums. You know, that maybe you haven't seen take a service, you haven't seen work, and all the rest of it. And it's a shock. You look and think, you know, where's your tutelage? Where's your parentage? Where's your past? Where's your knowledge? Where's your passion for what you're doing? And it's horrendous. You know, a lot of people are just kind of thrown on platform. It's such an early stage in their spiritual development. It's literally, as you see, committees and booking secretaries have slots to fill, and they're not ready for it. It's wrong.
Right, let's go back a little bit into grandmas. and yeah, because I mean, as I said, when I know for a fact that when Nellie turned up, you know, people used to have a reverence about it, and the thing I found with the how can I put this? When you used to go to churches, they used to talk and they used to whisper. And they think, why are they whispering? And it was because they held these people in such high esteem.
Yeah.
That they didn't shout in case they offended them. And the thing is that Nellie had a voice like a foghorn, you know what I mean? When she opened her gob, everybody knew about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, you know, but it used to surprise me. But as a child, I thought everybody whispered. You know?
But they did. I mean, I remember me and Anna walking into churches, and literally, you know, it was like the parting of the seas. People would just move.
Yeah.
And I remember being at a young age thinking, you know, was my Nana something special? Because to me, she was Nana. You know, she was.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was the lady whose house I went to. You know, she was just Nana. And I remember, like, first witnessing it, and people did. And you're right, people did kind of whisper, and they wouldn't talk. And she was ushered through into this room, and a tea was brought. And I'm thinking, oh, what's going on here? Now you're lucky if you get a glass of water. It's true.
It is, yeah.
You are, and but that's the way it was. You know, they did respect the mediums. You know, and the congregation. You know, as soon as me Nana kind of stood, fell silent, and you could have a pin drop. They did. They were in, you know, total anticipation of what was about to happen. You know, and I've been out earlier this evening taking a service, and this is no exaggeration. You know, there was 2 rows of people passing Maltesers and fruit pastels around. You know, as I'm demonstrating. You know, and then wondered what I was doing when I come down and pinched one. But it's totally different. But it was wonderful to see. It was wonderful to see that respect, and you know, that it was.
For a very short space of time, there was a church open in Guidepost beside us in Ashington, in Guidepost. Yeah. And I was lucky or unlucky to be the first medium to take a service there. And all of these people came wandering in with like shell suits on and tucked into their socks and little caps and things like this. And the lady that was actually chairing the service stood up and she said, now the medium's going to give his demonstration. I'd appreciate it if you possibly would mind stop texting whilst the medium was giving his demonstration. So shall I just say that after I embarrassed the first lady who was on her phone, everybody else tended to put them down on the bottom. And then after about 10 minutes to think, oh, you know, he hasn't noticed. And then when you stand picking on the biggest guy in the place, because that's not that much interesting in his crotch, he's really got to be texting with his phone. You know, the thing is that you think it's, you know, people don't understand. It actually is a church. It may be a community centre the rest of the week, but for that time that we are there, it is a church, and it should be treated that way.
That's right.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing is, I know that and people turning up to take services, and I just find as if, you know, people don't bother with their appearance. And you think, well, if you can't be bothered to do it, then, you know, why should we be bothered to listen?
It's true. You know, my nana was an absolute stickler for appearance.
Yep.
Massively, you know, you didn't get on platform without shirt and tie and all the rest of it. And, you know, it is about, you know, I'm expecting, you know, people to kind of sit and listen to what I've got to say and take some kind of solace out of it, you know, and acknowledge what I'm saying. And there's a cat, I thought I could hear it.
Yeah.
And you do. You know, I've booked mediums personally. I booked a medium. He turned up in shorts and a t-shirt. And you just think, what? It's wrong. And just to answer Scott's question there as well about kind of towering egos and stuff, I agree with that wholeheartedly. It did with a lot of mediums. You know, egos, I think, have been in the movement pretty much constantly. I don't think it'll ever kind of go away. You know, you do get mediums that have the pomp and ceremony, and, you know, mediums certainly in the UK with qualifications through the SNU. You know, they have to have their letters after their name and all the rest of it, and they do it for entirely the wrong reasons. It drives me mad. You know, I've always said I'm Michael Rogers, A, B, C, and D. Why not? It's wrong. You know.
Yeah, I mean, this thing they've got now where you've got to have a qualification to work on the platform. I was like, you, God almighty, yeah. The qualification is you've got to have a link with spirit.
Qualification to link with spirit, yeah, or a gift. That's my bugbear.
Oh, yeah. Go on, give them a gift.
That's my bugbear.
Hi, Julie.
You know, I'm a medium. I possess a gift, and it's crap. Medium in the world possesses a gift. I have an ability that you know, I've kind of honed. I've trained. I've learned me craft. You know, I mean, do we look at brain surgeons? Do we look at builders? Do we look at artists? Do we look at all these people in all these different professions? They possess a gift. Absolutely, it drives me nuts.
It's not a gift.
It's not a gift. It's an ability.
No, it's an ability. You're able to do these things. I mean, many of us are different, in all honesty, Michael. And I mean, I've talked with Eric for many a long hour, and we agree the same thing. What you've got is what you've honed. It isn't something that is magically been placed upon your shoulders. You just got to enjoy it.
Of course, yeah. I mean, I always say to my congregations, because I'm quite partial to a rant on this subject, believe it or not. You know, and I always say to my congregations, you know, and I ask them to kind of just look at me, observe me for 2 seconds, you know, or 2 minutes, you know, and just think to yourself, what kind of divine power, what higher being, look down on the likes of me, look down on the likes of Eric or any other medium. I thought, yeah, they're the one. He's the one. I'm picking him. Absolutely not. You know what I mean? And far from it. My development certainly wasn't a gift. It was an absolute chore. It wasn't a gift. No way.
But the thing is, that, sorry, Brian. The thing is, Michael, that you know, I can play chopsticks on the piano, but I can't do a concert recital.
Exactly.
And it's exactly the same with the mediumship. Everybody has the spark of mediumship within them, but not everybody can stand up on the platform and do what we do.
Yeah.
But the thing is though, if a guy goes to play the piano at a concert, people quite happily pay the money at the door to go and see this.
Yeah.
And the thing is that they don't go, oh, he's got a gift, you should be giving it for free. You know? So,
No way.
you know what I mean? Yeah. Oh, I'll go and paint your portrait, but I'm not going to charge you for it because it's a gift. I'm going to give it to you for free. You know? Yeah, I bet they do that often, you know? But every single medium's got the same thing. You know? So it's just, it's one of them things that I'm with you on it. You know that it's like, you know, why do mediums have to charge? Because we've got bills. You know?
They have to eat.
Well, you can tell I ate my brother.
Well, twice.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, Scott, exactly the same with healers. You know? Good grief, you know, you start with a spark, but then you have to do it.
Well, that's what I trained with. First of all, my grandmother. I was with her for 3 years while I was in about the age of 7, 8, 9, and she taught me healing. And she was very strict. She would never make joke of it, make light of it, or anything else. It was something that we used to do on a regular basis every day. We'd sit there and practice healing, and that's where all mine started from. And love grandmothers. My nan was everything to me. So.
Yeah, I mean, my did you, Michael, have a situation where your grandmother actually let you understand that you could do this? I'll tell you why, because when mine was when I was well, it was my 7th birthday, and for a birthday treat she was doing a church. Yeah. As they did, you know, and I was at the back of the church, and what she used to do was stick us at the back of the church with a colouring book and some pens, get on with it. And the thing is that 7th birthday, and she went, Kelly, and I'm like, oh, what have I done wrong? Bearing in mind, this lady had just been floating on a chair with ectoplasm spewing out of her mouth like a white towel. And people were like going, nearly fainting in the audience. I would manage to cone everything out, and I'm sitting thrown away at the back. And Kelly come down, and I'm like, why? What have I done? And I went down, and she went, you know, this lady here, have you got a message for her? And I sort of looked at her and thought, I don't like your hat. You know, or, you know, yeah. I'm sorry, but your coats and shoes don't match, you know what I mean? And she was like, well, no, have you got a message from my husband? And I did, and I carried on from there. And when we got home, my gran said to me, oh, you can do what I do, floating about with a chair, ectoplasm coming out, people look like this now, when I think I need a change of underwear. But no, and from then on the teaching started. So did you have an experience where she said, right, you can do this, or was it just a general drifting?
There was definitely, I mean, she was president of a church for many years, and within that church there was a lyceum. So I spent kind of my younger years, I think from the age of 5, going downstairs into the tea room with a lovely Scottish lady by the name of Teresa. She was brilliant. And she kind of did little bits, you know, she'd show kind of auras around candles and discuss energy and spirit and all the pioneers and stuff. And as I got older, I kind of started questioning more, and I didn't want to be downstairs, you know, learning the hymns and writing prayers. I wanted to be upstairs. I wanted to be kind of part of these services. I wanted to be kind of sat there. So I remember there was one week this medium was due to come and didn't turn up. So being on a took platform, she says to me, you've wrote prayers downstairs, haven't you? I says, yeah. And she says, well, you can come on platform, you can do the opening prayer. And I thought, oh, brilliant, finally, you know. So I got up and I read my little prayer, and I think that was it. In fact, no, I was the first time she ever did it. And she just kind of turned and just says, right, get up, talk to her. And that was it. I did. I kind of looked and, you know, pretty much kind of what you are. I'm looking and thoughts are coming into my head, and I'm thinking, what's going on here? and I gave me message. She said nothing for kind of the rest of the night. We sat and did the day. It was only in the car home. Kind of, she looked at us and says, "You did well." And me Nana never complimented ever. Kind of a pat on the back or a clip around the back of the hair was kind of back of the head was, a sign of affection and a compliment. And she went, "You did well. That'll do. We'll have to get you better though." And that was it. That was kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean, I just found that when she said to me, "Oh yeah, you can do that," I was more terrified than I've ever been in my life. And then, the other thing I wanted to ask you was, did your Nana ever actually explain to you about guides and about who you would hear and how you would do this or anything? Because I must admit, mine came as one massive shock. And I'm not talking about Teddy, because he had his own way of shocking everybody.
Yeah.
But no, but the thing is though that when I was young, my early guides came in, and I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm going mad.
My grandmother used to talk about her guides and the help she got from above. That was her way of putting it.
Yeah.
But to be honest, my forebearers, her parents and such, they came from Ireland, and they were gypsies. They used to run around in one of these horse-drawn wagons and do all their healing from there. Because mainly they were healers, and I think this is where there is a line definition that people think, just because you're a healer, you can do everything else, and that isn't necessarily so. My I hate to call it a gift, but the thing that I've honed more than anything else is totally different to everybody else's. So I think to myself, well, I don't talk to spirit, I don't get messages from spirit. All I've got to do really is just to be me, and that's all I can be. And it's taken me quite successfully through any number of 3 score years, and Christ knows how many. But anyway, sorry, interrupting. Carry on.
Very much, with across my 9 guides, my experiences, that was very much mirrored what Brian's just said. Me Nana would talk about her guides. She'd see things at a very young age. My Nana would talk about Tweety Pie. That's what she used to say. Tweety Pie's been telling me this, and Tweety Pie's been, and she'd tell us what I'd been doing naughty at school and everything. Tweety Pie had told her. And I just thought that was normal, and every Nana had Tweety Pie. I did.
I bet you hated that bird.
Oh, I did. I couldn't watch the the programs or anything like that. I hated it, but she did. She Tweety Pie's been showing me that, and Tweety Pie's been showing me this. But she never kind of expanded on that. She never kind of says it was guides or inspirers or spirits working with her, and very much kind of seen when I started working and kind of experiencing my own guides. I'd ask her about it, and she said, "Oh, I read such and such a book, or I look at this," and she always kind of pushed for me to find answers myself, me Nana. She'd never kind of just give it to you on a plate, ever.
No, I mean, sorry, the cat was moving and I was wondering what was going on. It was with Nellie. It was slightly different, and once I started developing my own choir and my own guides, then she came in with well, why do you think you need this, and why do you think you need that? And then I'd sit and I'd think, I think I need it for this reason, or I need it for that reason. And she'd say, yeah, but you'll learn. And I mean, I don't know about you, but growing up, my first guides were other children.
Yeah.
Because because people say, oh, your guides must have been these wonderful people who knew everything. Well, guides don't know everything to start with. But the thing is, though, that my early guides were children, because if, a 50-year-old guy that had died by hanging himself appeared in my bedroom when I was an 8-year-old kid, then yeah, I probably would have needed a second nappy or, a new set of underwear, and I would not have been happy about conversing with him. And my guides changed as I grew.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can remember kind of, we pals, basically, they were. At that age, I didn't see them as guides. I didn't see them as kind of mentors or anything like that from the higher side of life. I just saw them as people at party when I was meant to be going to sleep. And absolutely, and Nana kind of, she acknowledged it. She did, and kind of discussed it and things like that. Yeah, and I can remember reading these books. And you do read books about spiritual guides and all the rest of it, and I thought, that I was doing something wrong because I didn't have like a Tibetan monk, or I didn't have a Native American, I didn't have an angel, I didn't have any of that. I had a scraggy little laddie by the name of Tim. That age, and I think, what am I doing wrong here? And I remember going to her with that and saying, and I remember looking at her and saying, no, I haven't got me Indian yet, I don't have me, I haven't got me monk yet. And she just used to laugh, bless her. It's funny.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that's the thing. I mean, I must admit that, like, when I got to about 2021, and I started looking into doing this properly, as I kept saying, rather than playing at it, and all the mediums at the time, they all had these monks or Dalai Lamas or, Native Americans. Everybody had a Native American or an Egyptian. Or an Egyptian was another one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at some point I had to have an angelic being in there. And, and things like this. And I'm like, oh my God, what's happening, And then you just think, wait, be honest, And people would say to me, so who's your guide? And I'd tell them who it was. And they'd look at you. And Nellie used to say to me, it doesn't matter, because it's who comes back from spirit. And they all know a heck of a lot more than we do. So just treat them with respect. And that was it. That was the whole thing, because her whole philosophy was, she had two rules, Nellie's rules. Rule number 1, spirit does the work, you are out with a telephone.
Absolutely.
Rule number 2, if you think you're a star, reread rule number 1.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah. My Nana's opinion was very much the same. We are literally a mouthpiece. So, and I've always said it, the only reason I stand on platform week in, week out is because I'm quite fond of the sound of my own voice. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And it goes back to the fact that we are just a tiny, tiny component in this massive jigsaw. And, them upstairs, if you want to call them that, or spirit, they're the ones pulling the strings, they're the ones doing the work. We just fill the gaps.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason that we're there is the fact that we can actually hear what they're saying in 90% of the cases.
Yeah.
And the thing is that we can give it out to where 100% of the congregation can hear what we're saying. That's the only reason we're there.
Yeah.
But no other reason than to get their message over.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Nellie, well, Brian was saying that his grandparents came from Ireland. Well, Nellie used to be a gypsy. She used to live in a caravan up in Wooler. And then she moved down into Blythe. And when people found out that there was a gypsy imply. They used to come banging on the back door, and she used to do oh, you're going to have a boy, or you're going to have a girl, and reading the tea leaves and all of this stuff. And then moved on to opening the spiritual church in Bow Street. And I thought, you know, what are you doing? But in all of this, she tread it with respect. In all of this, and that's what she instilled in me, was the fact that I made a joke about what I do, but the joke's on me. And it's to do with respect, because spirit have the most wonderful sense of humour in the fact of that if you think that you're too big for your boots, they are going to take it away.
Hmm.
And
Absolutely.
I saw two mediums, and you'll know exactly who I mean. I saw two mediums who came from Jedburgh.
Mm-hmm.
And they, father and son, and they used to come on and they used to give a really nice, lovely service, and everything was fine. And this one night, they decided, I don't know if it was the father or the son, decided that they really needed to dress up. So they went away and they bought morning suits, complete with the ruffles on the sleeve, the cravat on here, the handkerchief in the pocket, the one on the sleeve. They look like meatloaf. That's what they look like, in a morning suit. And they came to do the service at Dorian's Church at Widdrington. And they came to do Widdrington. And they walked out like that, and everybody just went, and they never got one yes all night. It's just a resounding sea of no's. They got off the platform, into the car, still in their morning suits, and away home, and didn't even take any expenses. And the thing is that it was like, oh my God. The next time I saw them, they were back in shirts and t-shirts and ties and everything else. And it was just, there was spirit teaching them a lesson.
Of course it will. Spirit will teach them a lesson. You know, there's another medium in the northeast. You know, I'll not name any other names. And then I should have told you this story. You know, who went through a stage of bringing banners with him into a spiritualist church and putting them on platform, you know, advertising his services and his readings and all the rest of it. You know, which was, yeah, it was interesting. Then there was one night, or one day actually, I was at a spiritualist church with Wild's End actually. I was doing the Mind, Body and Spirit Day. And we were doing sittings. And said medium walked in. And he had one of those, you know, I don't know how many of you before. I certainly wasn't familiar with these until I'd seen it. It was like an LED belt buckle with his name and mobile number, you know, and kind of like flashing across, you know, like Knight Rider, but on his waist. It was brilliant. And, you know, like kind of with his services and all the rest of it. And he came in with such a bloody ego, you know, swanning in and insisted he had a fan and all the rest of it. And I think done 3 sittings, crashed out of all of them, didn't get a yes or coherent evidence. And it goes back to what you were saying. Spirit will just kind of slap you in the back of the head, you know, say, you know, what's going on about it? You know, it's ridiculous.
Now, I mean, it was, yeah, spirit does slap you, and they will tell you that you've gone too far. But before it gets to that point, it's annoying to have to be lumped in the same category as them people.
Yes, it is. Drives me nuts.
Yeah, I like that, Scott. That's a nice one. I like that one. Yeah. We shall not say exactly who it is because it's a radio show and there we go. But, yeah.
Neil on head.
Yeah, Neil.
Neil on head.
Neil on head, exactly. Yeah. But the thing is that it's just so much. People ask me, you know, how do you do it? And I'm going to give you this same question in a minute. How do you do it? How do you get it on the platform every Sunday? And how do you do what you do? And I always answer by saying I'm never so alive as when I'm talking to the dead.
Mm-hmm.
And that just sums it up to me. But I mean, I know you do it every week as well.
I do it every week. It's a mix of things, right? Because, I'll get ready to take a service, I'll jump in the car, I'll be on my way. And it's a strange one for me, right? And I'm very, very open about this. I'll tell my congregation, when I'm on my way to take a service or when I'm preparing for a service or even when I'm getting there, I've got there and I can see them all. I genuinely, and I don't know if you go through the same thing, Eric, I genuinely don't want to talk to any of them. I don't. The nerves set in, I'm ill. To the point I'll run and hide, I'll go outside and smoke several cigarettes and I'll do everything I can. But then it sounds cliche and it sounds dead corny and that, but it's like shifting into one of as soon as you make that connection, as soon as you link with spirit, it is the most addictive, invigorating, energized experience ever. And I absolutely love it. So it's a weird one, that. It's such a mix of emotions. Now, me nana, I used to witness it with her. Now, she wasn't a quiet lady, by any sense of the imagination, my grandmother. And she just exuded confidence, and as if she was in control. But this was a lady that I used to sit with kind of in the medium's room or in the tea room before taking a service that physically couldn't speak. She physically couldn't talk. She was shaken. She was so self-conscious and paranoid, and to the point of making herself ill. There was certain times, especially later on, as that kind of profile grew and developed, and she was, she used to demonstrate some quite high numbers. There was, at times there'd be 200 to 300 people sat in the congregation, and she'd be ill. We used to get off platform and I used to say, I cannot understand. At that point I didn't understand why she would do that, why she kept beating herself up week in, week out. And every time we took a service, she'd be in that state, only for kind of years down the line, and I'm not kind of demonstrating near the number she did. But I get it. It's horrible.
I'll tell you the difference between that and Nellie. There's the Scottish version of Stansted in Glasgow.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it hadn't long been sort of premised and sorted out. And it certainly wasn't in the building it's in now. It was in Tatty Church Hall somewhere. But anyway, Nellie got asked if she would go and demonstrate there. And they asked if she could do some levitation and things like that. Now, she said to me, come on, Kelly, we're off to Glasgow. And you may as well have been talking about Timbuktu then, because we had to get about 19 trains and a couple of stagecoaches to get to Glasgow. And we turned up and they put us up in this hotel that, shall we just say, left a lot to be desired. So we got in the hotel and then we went down the next morning and she gave the seminar, and then in the early evening she was going to do the demonstration. And the Scots, being the canny people that they are, they'd had a couple of press reporters come in who decided they were going to debunk it. And they were sitting about 2 rows back, but right on the end of the aisle, and like the centre of the church. And every time she went on and she was on the chair and the chair levitated and she was doing this, and he's going, it's electromagnets. It's electromagnets underneath. I can't do a Scottish accent, otherwise I would, because he was in this like false whisper to his mate that was writing everything down on the pad, like this, and he was going along. And he was going, yeah, I know a Scottish accent, but unfortunately he's not calm at the minute. That's 2 weeks' time, darling. And he said, and they were trying to get a rise out of it. And Nellie just sat there on the seat. And they started talking among themselves in the middle of the service. And this guy's got his face and his mate like that, and he's doing that. And Nellie just floated off the platform, right over the top of the first 2 rows, of the congregation and stopped about 2 feet from his face. And the guy was facing the other way. And he turned around and there was Nellie, like here. And she went, "Boo. You've never seen two guys get out of that church. They clambered over people. They were out of that door like grease lightning." And she just floated back onto the stage and carried on with the service. And I was absolutely gobsmacked. And then not a review, nothing in the papers whatsoever. Nothing. And I thought, after all that, good on you, but good grief. You know. But this is what mediums did then. You know. Yep, she floated in the air, Sharon. Yeah, she was literally, she was actually sitting on a seat. She floated on the seat in the air and then straight out. She used to do an entire service in levitation on the seat when she was doing services in the churches. But that wasn't uncommon then.
You know what I mean? It was funny because my nana used to talk, we were discussing this fairly recently, actually, me and Eric, when we were in church. And my nana used to talk about, unbeknown to me, Eric's nana. She used to talk about, and she could never remember her name, she used to talk about the mad lady from Blythe that used to float, floaty lady, she used to call her.
What?
You know, and as I was progressing and looking into kind of different aspects of mediumship, you know, the physical side of it, transfiguration, ectoplasm, blah, 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 and that boys, you know, she used to say, "Oh, I wish you could have seen this floaty lady from Blythe." You know, and when I look at her, I said, "What do you mean, floating lady?" You know, and she described exactly what Eric had said. She says, "Michael, she used to stand on platform and be floating, levitating, you know, she didn't even realise she was doing it." You know, I mean, then I used to talk in great depths with me. We used to have conversations, you know, about how spiritualism had changed, you know, and how that was common practice back then, you know, when she was first coming into it with her mentor, Belle, you know, because she used to levitate and stuff as well. You know, she says this was common, you know, this is what kind of was borderline expected.
Yeah.
You know, and why do you guys think that physical mediumship has declined?
Because it takes too much effort.
Yeah. In a nutshell, physical mediumship takes a massive, massive amount of effort, commitment. You know, I mean, I work with some areas, the physical mediumship. I'm a trance medium myself, still developing, I might add, nowhere near, you know, the kind of stages that I'd like to be. But mediums now, you know, I'm going to use the term, I'm going to sound like a right old fart, but I'm going to use kind of the term younger generation. The teachings now, you know, certainly with the SNU and Stansted within the UK, is they're all after the quick fix. They're all after a quick turnover. You know, and I've discussed this with my students, I've discussed this with my peers, I've discussed this with my fellow mediums. You know, and I do firmly believe that a very real risk now of creating what I call a generation of robotic mediums. You will all be this. You will all aspire to be Tony Stockwell.
Yeah, maybe he's not.
Wonderful as Tony is. I've met the man on several occasions. He's a lovely fella. And they're taking the spirit out of spirituality. In spiritualism, we are all spirit. We all work in entirely different ways. You know, me and Eric, you know, sort of, you know, a few miles down the road, you know, quite similar upbringings and things like that. We work entirely different. You know, the common theme is we like a joke, we like a laugh, but our methods are different. And instead of encouraging that and encouraging that to kind of be brought forward, you know, we just told, right, you will stand still, you will stand on the spot and give a message.
And then we ignore her.
Yeah. And that's why physical mediumship, you know, proper mediumship to me, is on the decline. And
Yeah, Scott, you're right. I mean, too many high-tech magicians and illusionists can produce the results. And I agree. But the thing is, though, that back in the 60s, every medium had spent so much time honing their craft that somewhere along the line they had diversified into trance, physical mediumship, ectoplasm, levitation, whatever. I was very, very lucky in the fact that Nellie could pretty much turn her hand to the ectoplasm. She was really good. It was like coming down like a blanket out of her mouth. But the thing is, though, that the trance, her face would change, the voice would change, but she was alright. But when it come to levitation, that's what she'd specialised in. And, that's what she did. So when I was being taught by her about mediumship, I was told, specialise in one thing. She said it's the old jack of all trades, master of none. And when people come and pay money to see you, they deserve to see the best that you can give. Now, if you decide that you want to go into trance, then by all means, but specialise in trance. But do not forget about your bread and butter, which is the message from Spirit. And the thing is that very early on, I said, I really don't want to do trance. I don't want to do levitation. I don't want to do that. I want to specialise in mediumship. And that's what I did. And for the longest time, until Teddy arrived, and all of a sudden I'm now doing overshadowing, and how the heck that came about, I haven't a clue, but my wife prefers to talk to my guide than she does to me. So
it's true, in specialising. Because I'd always said, I just wanted to give messages. I wanted to stand on a platform and work the way I do. That's what I trained as. That's but I very quickly became interested in other aspects of things. So Eric is 100. In complete agreement with what he's saying. We should specialise and be proud of what we do and what we specialise in. As opposed to combining the two. I've recently been made aware in the past few months of a medium that combines platform mediumship and transfiguration. I went and witnessed it, and it's wrong. I don't see how you can combine the two.
You can't. I don't, for the life of me, I don't believe that.
In this medium, when I kind of broached the subject and my kind of understanding of transfiguration, I kind of told her that although I didn't get a message, which was fine, I didn't witness any facial changes. This same medium told me that the facial changes could only be witnessed by the recipient of the message.
Oh, that's a good cop-out, isn't it?
It is. Wonderful cop-out. Totally kind of contradicts transfiguration and the meaning of transfiguration of physical mediumship. I was always under the understanding and always taught that for physical mediumship, if declared physical mediumship, everyone in attendance has to witness the same bloody thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's horrendous. You just think, why can't we just be passionate about what we do? My nana was a platform medium through and through. That was a passion. That was a love. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I've spent 50 years going down that. Oh, by the way, hello, Scott. How are you doing? And I just thought I'd give a shout out because he's the poor lads. Yay! He's up late at night as usual. The thing with Nellie was the fact that she used to say, you have to specialise, not specialise, but you have to give 100%. You have to give the best evidential stuff from Spirit that you can. And if you dilute it by trying to get catchphrases in or trying to get, people to laugh or anything without it being like, part of what you're doing, then it's wrong. And and she used to go and berate mediums that were up and coming, and they weren't taking it seriously, or, you know, they would turn up on the platform and go, well, I don't really know what I want to talk about tonight, and then ramble off about something they did the week before. And she'd say, yeah, I know, but that's cheapening the service for the person sitting in the congregation. You know, if you don't turn up and you haven't prepared, and I don't mean you've got to have your philosophy all written out, you know, like as you know, sometimes I do. But the thing is, though, that you haven't prepared yourself mentally. You've just sort of, as you said, floated into it. Then why do the congregation have to take anything you say seriously? Because you haven't bothered.
Exactly. You should prepare always. You know, and that was rule number one. You know, prepare and prepare again. You know, we then I would take ourselves up and have a quiet time. I'll put my music on. I'll get myself ready. I'll get myself in that right frame of mind. But you know, you do see it. It's common practice now to dilute. And it drives me nuts, you know, and, you know, meetings that, you know, my bugbear, and I don't know how many of you will agree with this, it'll be an interesting topic for conversation if no one else. One of my major bugbears is meetings that make everything lovely, make everything pretty, you know. I mean, if I was to go, you know, to a service and a medium was to bring my nana through and see she's full of hugs and kisses and she's going in a bunch of flowers, there's no way at all I'm going to believe you're talking to that woman, because that's not who she was, you know. But we dilute it and we lose the essence of that person, you know. Whereas if, you know, a medium was to say to me, I've got this short little dumpy woman behind you, she's got a mouth like a sewer, you know, borderline abusive, you know, there's Jean. It's commonplace now. I see it so often, and you just think, you know, capture the essence, capture them.
Yeah,
absolutely, but do the do.
Yeah, isn't that right though? That so many mediums now will give you the abridged version, and they'll go with the anyway, she's coming back and she wants to wrap her arms around you and give you a hug, or angel's wings. And you know for a fact all Jean would do is come clip you on the back of the head and say, you're not working hard enough. You know?
Exactly. I mean, you know, the only place like, you know, my nana would wrap her arms would be round my neck. Fact. That's fact. You know, but we do, you know, people do, and I'm forever saying this to my students, you know, stop making it pretty. Stop faffing. Stop. Bring them forward, you know, as they were. You know, I mean, obviously there's limits. But, you know, spirit don't change, you know, and, you know, it was certainly a hard lesson for me to learn, because I genuinely had the idea, you know, they're going up there and, you know, they're endowed with all of this knowledge, you know, borderline angelic beings. You know, I've since realised with working for spirit, you know, and I did, you know, they get the clouds and all the rest of it, you know. Now, kind of, you know, so experienced, you know, 20 odd years down the line, you know what? My nana's not sat up there in a cloud. You know, she's caged for fear she'll take over. That's about it. That's the fact of it.
Yeah, I mean, I know for a fact that Nellie comes back and works with me, and that's because she can't trust Teddy to do it right. And the thing is that's her way she does it. She'll come back and she'll say, I've only come back because that clown can't do it right. And I go, you know, it's that's the way it is. And she was always the same when she was here. But when it comes to doing like the microwave messages, where I'm working 3 messages in front, then I trust my nana. I don't trust Teddy.
Yeah.
Because Teddy wants to make a joke of everything, and that's where it all falls down. So the thing is that there's the two, you know. I'm not going to tell you, Scott, you're going to have to stay here, or you're going to have to listen on and go, one of the two. Yeah. So it's, hang on. Where did, it's the other Scott that answered. I thought, good God, he's gone psychic and he's answered his own question. You know, that's what you get for trying to look at 2 things at once when you're dyslexic. Yeah, the other thing though that gets me is people how to put this, and I'm not getting at anybody in particular, I'm really not, but I'm just going to try and figure out the best way to put it. People who copy other mediums do my head in.
Drives me nuts. Now,
Yeah.
it does. You know, me Nana used to forever tell me off for this. You know, because looking at her, and I used to look at me Nana and think, I want to emanate that, I want to do that. And, you know, she was always hitting us and telling us, no, you know, don't emanate, don't copy. I hate it. Drives me nuts.
Yeah, because you can only be yourself.
Exactly.
You know?
You know, I mean, and we are human at the end of the day, and we are ourselves, and spirit work with us independently. They work with us in their own way. They work on their own on very different vibrations. But that's what I love about this movement. I love seeing different mediums and the different approaches and the different methods and the different ways they work. And
you know what? Do you know what else annoys? What drives me bananas? Really, it does. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not. And people do work that way, and I'm fine. Is when they go in, when somebody will come in and go, oh, I've got an Alsatian here. I've got a dog here. And he wants to give you a message. And I go, woof, woof, woof. We spend all our lives telling everybody, when you get to the other side of life, you don't change. So all of a sudden, dogs certainly develop a voice.
Oh yeah. You know, we'll teach you that. We you know, we do. You know, we taught that by many mediums. I was taught that by one medium. You know, that we don't change, our spirits don't alter and all the rest of it. But yet, you know, in the same night she gave a black Labrador, they could have a conversation. You know, come on.
Sorry. Yeah, sure.
No, I have no doubt,
but that's it.
You know, in my own work, you know, I give animals quite regularly. You know, they do come back. Of course they do. They're an integral part of our lives. Of course they do. But, you know, I'm not going to say, you know, Dog Rover's coming in, you know, he wants to tell you that job you've applied for is yours, because of course he's not. He's coming in for a cuddle. That's it. It's ridiculous.
That's it.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, the thing is, Jackie, I understand what you're saying, that so many people doing it want it seem the same after a while anyway. I'm not being clever on this, but I've been doing it for 57 years now and I've never yet given the same message.
Absolutely.
If you come to see me work in 10 years' time, hopefully, God willing, I'll be working completely differently to what I do now. Because I may have done it for this length of time, but I'm still learning and I'm still progressing and I'm still doing things differently. And that's the thing that the hierarchy in the churches around here can't understand, is that you have to move with the times, but not to dilute the message. And there's a way of doing that, and that's what they have to learn. But that's my own personal little rant, but I've never given the same message. I've been to see hundreds of mediums, and I've seen literally hundreds of mediums, and I see people and go, he's trying to be Tony Stockwell. He's trying to be Derek Acora. He's trying to be an idiot and he's succeeding. You know, I really see people doing different stuff. You know? Oh, I'm pleased about that, Julie. Yay! Yeah, I thought she was going to come on and say, first message you gave to me, it was crap. And I was going to go, there you go, honesty. Yeah. But the thing is, though, that, yeah, it's, everybody has their own way of working, and as long as you're true to yourself and true to spirit, it'll never be the same. It shouldn't be the same.
It should never be the same. You know, it changes, it varies service to service. It just does.
Yeah.
You know, I'll go and kind of say, oh, I quite enjoyed that tonight. You know, it flowed, it was lovely. Then other nights I'm working on a totally different vibration and all the rest of it.
And everybody's got knits.
Yeah, I love seeing that. It's great. That's just for my own amusement, if nothing else.
Yeah.
But you work entirely differently. And I remember, we're having a conversation, taking the conversation back to me nana, and I says, it drives us nuts. Why can it never just be normal? Why does it have to be different? Why do I have to do things differently? Why does it have to do that? And she says, well, that's spirit. That's different entities touching your vibration, and that's how I learned about it all. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, of course it is. In a service, potentially we can be linking with several, if not, tens of different spirit entities that touch our vibration with a different energy field. It's going to be different. It's going to change. It's going to alter. Our approach is going to change. Not service from service. I take that back. It changes message from message. And that's what we should be looking for. Not these people that are uniform and stood with a spot and hands clenched and.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing, and good God. Yeah, I'm sorry, I just started the conversation there. Teddy took something straight away out of my brain and I haven't a clue where the hell that was going. Yeah, I'll give it back to you. I really started that conversation and he just took it away for some reason. So obviously I must have been good to tell a lie.
It happens. It does.
Yeah. It just went and I was like, hang on a minute. Where did that go from? But yeah, I mean, it alters, it changes, and everything to do with that. But it's not wrong because I know exactly where I was going with it now because you fetched it back. Thank you very much. Is the fact of developing mediums. And Nellie used to get on about developing mediums, about people that will sit in an open circle. And first of all, people have the wrong idea of a circle, of an open circle. They have this wrong idea of the open circle because they think the open circle is for them to pay £1 and go get some messages. But it's not, because it's a development circle for people to develop. And it's not for you and me to stand up and give 94 messages off. It's for people who don't go on the platform, who don't usually give messages, to stand up and learn and to practice. And the thing is, that's the difference. And the only difference between that and us is a 5-letter word. And that's trust.
Yeah.
We trust implicitly that Spirit's going to give us the messages we need. Therefore, we get on the platform and we do that. To develop that trust, you work in a circle. But the thing is, though, that so many people just can't understand that you don't have a message when you stand up. If you ring me on the telephone, we don't know how that conversation is going to go in the hour we're speaking down the telephone. But the thing is, though, that you don't then go, well, I'm not going to ring him because I don't know how that's going to end. You ring because it's quite nice for this to ramble on and go on, same as this program tonight. But the thing is, though, that in a circle, you don't need to know the end. You don't need to know the whole message. You just got to know that little bit to get you up on your feet.
Absolutely. I always try to work blind. I think it's more fun. Stand up with absolutely literally nothing and see what happens. Just wing it. But yeah, that's the way it should be, and you do develop trust. And, I can honestly say, I can go to take a service, and I can't guarantee that I'm going to get all of the, yeses. I can't guarantee that 100% of that congregation is going to be over the moon with my work. But I trust 100% that Spirit will be there, Spirit will be inspiring, Spirit will be helping. That's the difference. It goes back exactly to what Eric was just saying there. It all comes down to trust. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, but when we work, and I mean, everybody in the chat room knows what I'm saying is the truth. We both work totally differently. But the one thing that is exactly the same between both of us is that we like to have fun.
Yeah.
Because we both believe there is too many people on that platform giving doom and gloom. We like to give Spirit's message, and Spirit, funnily enough, sometimes have a message which is quite humorous. Now, we don't want people to turn up and go, oh, well, I went to see him, and when I left, I wanted to commit suicide. You know? I mean, there's too many people that way around. So, and I keep saying, if anybody leaves me after a reading and they don't feel better about themselves, then I haven't done Spirit's work.
Yeah.
Even a cat that's going to get murdered if it doesn't stop squeaking.
But it's true, you know, and I was taught by me nana from a very young age, and I think that's kind of where my love of working with laughter comes from. Because to me, it's the best vibration in the world. You want to lift vibration, you want to lift energy, do it with laughter. But to me, it's a celebration. Right, what I do. My job is to bring you know, to connect with your loved ones, you know, let them allow them to come forward. And celebrate the impact they had on our lives, celebrate what they taught us, celebrate them as human entities, and now with Spirit. I've got no intentions, and you know, and I hate the idea of getting on platform and bringing them forward in such a way, you know, that I have a recipient of a message, a quivering wreck and crying and blubber and all. I don't want any of that. Why? Let's, you know, do it with a smile on my face. It's magic at the end of the day. It's something truly wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is, Scott. Laughter is the great addiction. It's wonderful when you do it. And I've been in Michael's services and I've heard the philosophies he gives, and I've seen people with tears in their eyes laughing at this philosophy.
Snap.
Which is Spirit, and they're just absolutely rolling about laughing. And then they go, and then they get messages, again given with humour and laughter. And then when they leave, they feel good about themselves. They've been down the spookies and they're getting these messages and everything's great, but then in between it all, they're getting this serious message from Auntie Minnie, who's told them where the insurance policy is and they're gonna be rich. You know? But the thing is though, that's the whole thing. And there's so many people that just want to stand there and go, I've got a man, he's about 6 foot, he's got white hair, he died of shortage of breath. Well, didn't we all? You know, doesn't every single person die of shortage of breath? But no, I'd rather do it, you know, as who was it? Frank Sinatra said, I'll do it my way.
Exactly.
So, yeah. But, I mean, I know that we're supposed to be talking about grandmas, but I do know that you have a story about your granddad. And I believe it had a lot to do with the pub closing down at the end of the road. And you want the greenhouse, was that? Did I remember that one? Yeah.
You know what? Yeah. Just kind of further emphasises my crazy kind of mad upbringing. You know, why I turned out to be the fine, mentally stable, wonderful human being I currently am. Yeah, me granda. Again, you know, one way short of a shipwreck, me granda. He was just nuts. But yeah, he loved his garden, and you know, his great passion. You know, I remember kind of growing up with his greenhouse, and I spent a lot of time in there with him. And it was only after he passed, and we kind of went back as a family to kind of to get the house out and things like that. We went into the garden and we were looking at the greenhouse, and the story emerged. There was a pub many years before I was born, down the road from me granda, that was due to be demolished. So we went down before they had the chance to demolish it, and he half-inched the windows. He just took them and built his greenhouse. And honestly, in like all the years, you know, my granddad died, I think I was about 18, so you're talking like 18 years I've spent in this greenhouse with him growing tomatoes and hiring worms and that. I've never realised the fact that these windows were kind of embellished with the golden lion. Yeah, he stole the pub windows.
Yeah, but the thing is that if your granddad came back and said, you know, and a medium said to you, oh, I've got a guy here, he must be your granddad, and he's coming back all sweetness and light and everything else, you just go, you know. But if he come back and said, I've got your granddad here, but he's pointing to a thing and saying the golden lion, you know what I mean? You go, yeah, I can understand that, you know.
You know, it goes back to my earlier point, you know, I mean, let's, as mediums, capture the essence of people. You know, and absolutely, if someone was just to come forward and say, right, I've got your granddad stuff behind you.
Yeah.
And he was a lovely, quiet, gentle old man, you know, that loved everybody and all the rest of it. No, he was a wonderful human being, don't get me wrong. Yes, Scott, just to answer your question very briefly there. In my case, yeah, it did skip a generation. You know, as opposed to kind of working for spirit. My mother is a wonderful medium. She just will have no part of it, unfortunately. Will not do anything about it. So yeah, it skipped a generation. So what was I saying about my granddad? You know, yeah, it goes back to what I was saying. You know, as mediums, let's capture the essence, you know, of the people that we're bringing forward. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, that's it. Oh, an answer to Scott's question as well. Skipped a generation. In my case, slightly differently, because I lost my mum to spirit when I was 7 years of age, or just before 7. And I lived with my gran, hence the reason that she fetched me up to be this wonderful self-centered human being that I am now, as Michael would say. And, you know, well-balanced, you know, chocolatey Clary Chan, that kind of thing. But the thing is though that, Gran worked on the platform and she did all the levitation and she did everything else. Such a clever little dickie that she was. And my mum was just what I would call a jobbing medium. She worked on the platform, she did church services, and that's what she did. And then I come along and I'm a jobbing medium and I do church services and platform work and things like that. My daughter is probably twice the medium I am, no problem at all. She works really well, but she can't give a damn about working for spirit at the minute, so she's taken a hiatus. My grandson, who is 21, 22, something like that. No, 22. He's developing a link with spirit because he reckons it's a great way to pull the girls. And my granddaughter, who is 8 years of age, is now asking me why I'm talking to people who really aren't there. So, the thing I always tell people is, if you come to our house on a Sunday for dinner, and we're all sitting around the table, nobody talks, and everybody laughs.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Darlene, she's going, lol, boys, what's the matter? We've gone on too long. Do we have to stop now? Or what's going on?
No, when your grandson was thinking it was a good way to get to girls.
Oh yeah, oh definitely. I wish I'd figured that one out.
Okay, I'm going to give you guys a little break because you've been talking for an hour and a half. Michael, you haven't been drinking anything, so if you want something, go grab yourself. Eric's got a nice fridge over there filled with water. I'm sure he'll give you a bottle. If anybody has any questions about what the boys are talking about, please pipe in and ask out. don't be shy. We all know that Eric's not shy, so. No, Michael, he's not too shy. He still has interesting stories.
No. It's only 2 hours. I thought it was going to be longer, but never mind. Yeah. Hi, Raven. Yeah, you are very, very shy, aren't you? But yeah, this bunch of reprobates in the chat room. This is like an alternative family to me, I think, because every time you go around to different shows and different radio stations and everything else, you find the same reprobates turning up into the chat room. But just for Michael's benefit, they all do an encore as well, so that people can then go back in and listen to the recordings if they missed it. And that's when things start to climb and everything else. Jeff, yes, you're very shy. Yes, loyal friends, Scott, of course you are. Yep, that's Scotty too, Hottie from Scotland, that. And yeah, no problem. It's really good. I'm thoroughly enjoying today because this is what me and Michael do before. If one of us has a service and the other one's there, we just sit and ramble on like this. This is no different to us.
Yeah. Or after.
Yeah.
If one of us in the congregation, we'll just stop the service and have a rant. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's my favourite rant at the minute's the singing. That annoys me. And people will go to church and they don't sing. And we're trying to do hymns and half the congregation's miming. And the thing is that they're all sitting there lip syncing to the guy next door who is actually miming. And you're thinking, oh, what's going on? So I've started stopping stopping the service and shaming people into singing as loud as Julie Baxter Jones does.
Singing.
I'll get her because she's just mentioned it in there. Yeah, it's Julie Baxter Jones is a lady who is very, very nice at singing very loud with the wrong words. Aren't you, Julie? There you go. I'm going to get her back. But yeah. But we have, we had. Can you? What is it? Is it John that's got the body warmer on that sits at the side of Delaval? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sings really loud.
Sings his heart out, God love him.
Yeah. Bless him. I wish he would come to every one of my services because that is the most wonderful thing. Because when he sings, everybody else goes, "Oh well, if he's so bad, I'll do it."
They do.
Yeah.
Do. I once asked if I could hire him.
Yeah.
To come and sing. Because there's some of them that go, and we have such beautiful hymns. This religion, they just kill them and die a death.
Yeah.
I used to wonder because Nana used to go around, and believe it or not, her services beforehand, she used to hand out tambourines to the congregation.
Great. Yeah.
She actually did just little tambourines. She used to go and give them out, and she'd have them all dancing and singing and stuff.
Yeah.
But they don't realise, the congregations, that them hymns are intended to kind of raise the vibration for us to work on, and then they'll just kill it.
Yeah. Well, we've got this special coming up at your church at the level, and you weren't with us when we did the one at Newbiggin, were you? No, you mustn't have been. Or you remember it? No. That was me. That was Kay. That was Kelly, Keith, and we did the one at Newbiggin, and same kind of thing. But I'll do the same with the one we're doing at Delaval did there. We started with Spirit in the Sky. Now, everybody on the planet knows Spirit in the Sky.
Yeah.
If you've ever seen an 80-year-old woman with a Zimmer frame standing up at the back of the church, jumping about to Spirit in the Sky, it was brilliant. And the whole vibration was just lifted. And I said, that, there and then, I reckon that the church should do what Newbiggin used to do and play the tune and have everybody else sing along with it karaoke style. And then, yeah, you know, like if you were doing, what is it? I Have a Dream.
Mhm.
You know, but you had ABBA singing I Had a Dream. Everybody can sing with that. And then the vibrations get lifted.
You know, me Nana, again, you know, kind of later on in her career, she just didn't do hymns. You know, she kept booked for services and specials, you know, and she kind of booked them on the proviso that she could bring her own music. Typed up her song sheets and just abolished hymns. Yeah, why not? You know?
Yeah, I mean,
you know,
I heard, I don't know if it's true, I heard that they'd revised the rules for the SNU, that if there's less than 10 people in the congregation, you can now play a CD and sing with it.
that's
And
true.
I thought, well, great, because there's 50% of the SNU churches in the country can now have CDs.
Exactly.
You know? But
I think it's designated music, you know, so
yeah,
I couldn't kind of, you know, rock
yeah,
with
you can't just rock up with Journey or something like that. You know?
No. You know, me having a Queen, a kind of magic things like that would be me kind of
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
But yeah, that's true. What happened?
Yeah. I mean, I'm
What's the purpose of that union? To give me a bad head?
to give
Purpose.
me a pain in the backside.
The purpose of the union.
To make money.
I've got to behave. I'm in it, right? Yeah, it's to make money. The purpose of the union basically is to run the churches within the UK. To do that well in some districts. Me and Eric are both in the northeast of England, and not so much. But yeah, churches, yeah. So yeah, that's the Spiritualist National Union in a nutshell. Very strict. I agree with that, Julie. Christian spiritualist churches, just bringing that up, Scott, are some of the most wonderful places that I have the pleasure of, I have had the pleasure of working in. Absolutely wonderful. You know, they're so upbeat, so joyous, and so happy to be there. You know, I mean, a lot of the presidents in the SNU church have been there since, you know,
Since what grannies were around.
Yeah, you know, since the dawn of time, a lot of them, and they're just sick of their lives, genuinely don't want to be there. You know, but they keep getting re-elected. And that's the fact of it. You'd be excommunicated from it and that, mate. Yeah, definitely. Burn at the stake. But hey, why not? For a penny and all that. But they are. You know, and this is coming from me, you know, I'm vice president. I, you know, help run the Spiritualist National Union Church. And I love my church with an absolute passion. I love the people in it. I love everything about it. The union that I have to kind of answer to, however, not so much.
Yeah, but I mean, in a quick concept for everybody, the union was set up many years ago to publicise and promote the aspects of spirituality. It was really came into its own when they decided that we were going to actually be a bona fide religion.
Yeah.
And that's when the government decided that we had to stick in the communication and validation with angels, because that needed to be done for us to be a proper religion. And we are. And as I said, it's spiritualism in its own form is the fastest growing religion in the United Kingdom. It even beats Muslim. But it's the fastest growing religion in the United Kingdom. The only people who don't understand that is the receptionists at the A&E. Because they go, what religion are you? And you go, spiritualist. And they go, how do you spell that? Because they're usually about 10-year-old and just on work experience, but never mind. I thought they look that to me anyway, because I'm 60. But, you know, it's seriously, if anybody decides that they're going to be a spiritualist, there's two things you have to learn to answer. The first is, how do you spell it? And the second thing is, have you got anything for me? So, and it doesn't matter how ill you are. It doesn't matter how ill you are. If they discover they're a medium, they want a message.
I once had that at the dentist. Believe it or not, having a tooth taken out, fillings put in and all the rest of it, He'd obviously seen in kind of the records, spiritualists and all the rest of it, and yeah, you got anything from me? I was like, mate, I'm preoccupied at the minute, but it's
Well, when this first kicked off, the old goiter here,
yeah,
and I've got this wonderful thing where the throat's stuck shut and won't let me breathe, and I sat bolt upright in bed and I'd stopped breathing, so. I ended up down at the local hospital, and they blue lighted me with paramedics across to the Freeman, to the ear, nose and throat department. Well, by the time I got there, I was breathing perfectly all right again because the throat had opened up and everything was fine. But they decided I was going to stay in for the night. So of course, religion, spiritualist. Yeah, right. Oh, did you work on the platform? Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, right. So I'm there, and then about 3 o'clock in the morning, the throat shuts again. So I'm there like this, and I press my button like that. And this little Filipino nurse comes in and goes, "Oh, Mr. George, what's the matter?" And I'm going, like this. And I swear to God, and this is absolutely honest, true, they were pushing the windpipe down the breathing tube down my throat, and the nurse is saying, do you have any messages for me? And I'm like, don't stand on your windpipe. You know what I mean? She was like, and this is true, and it just goes on, but it's just, you get it everywhere you go. It doesn't matter. I knew about that. I get messages from beyond as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course you do. Oh. Somebody's asking, are we going to do any readings? You want to do a reading or two?
Go for it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Go on then. I'll let you start. Pick somebody in the chat room and have a go with them.
Look, choose it. Just looking at this. So I've got my glasses on, so I can't actually see what I'm doing.
Whoever's getting the reading, can you please remember to try and... I don't know if you can do it on here. Can you underline your font? No, you can't, because you can't change your font on here. Doesn't matter.
It's not a bad song to have it here, Jackie. Okay.
Yeah, reply in capitals. Thank you, darling. Anybody jumping out at you?
Nah.
Do, 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 do.
Jackie.
Jackie, are you there?
Are you there, Jackie?
Yeah, can you put your answer in capitals, please, so we know who it is?
Yes, you, Jackie. My legs have gone to sleep, so I'm just going to just move myself a little bit. Oh, lovely, right, thank you very much. Right, first things first, Jackie, I've got a gentleman that's linking in here. Now, as this gentleman, first thing I was made aware of was a gentleman that would have had quite extensive issues with his vision, really, because as I was searching for the names there, now I wear glasses for reading and things like that, but I was just made very, very aware of a condition that would have affected this gentleman's brain, first of all. I don't know if it's kind of Alzheimer's or dementia, because I just knew that my thought process, as this gentleman links in, is becoming more and more laboured. I'm becoming more and more kind of confused. I get the impression that this lovely soul couldn't kind of say what he wanted to say towards the end. This makes sense to you. And certainly this would have had impact on this gentleman's vision. I just know that my vision's gone very, very blurred as this gentleman's coming in. So, as well as that, I also get, when this gentleman would have been in health, I've got such a character that's coming forward. Yeah, I do feel the sense of humour that this gentleman would have kind of had and possessed. He certainly would have just kind of exuberated kind of humour and things like that. Very, very laid back, this gentleman. I do feel as though I need to be on like a fatherly vibration with this gentleman. So if I want to see its father directly. I might be wrong. Totally, we want like a grandfatherly link, but I have to say that this is kind of dad I've got here. Will this make sense to you, my love? Sure. Father-in-law, that'll do me. But you would understand if it was father-in-law, where there would have been that close kind of connection there with this gentleman at the minute as well. Now, he's talking very, very extensively at the minute about the fact that kind of, would you understand why he's referencing the fact that at the moment there just seems to be a tremendous amount on your plate at the minute? Very much aware of the fact that you just seem to be running around a bit like a headless chicken. Okay, now he's very conscious of the fact, I'm coming. Very conscious of the fact as well that needing to just kind of take some time out for myself. I'm also getting the name Brian shouted at me. I don't know if Brian's in spirit or on the earth plane as of yet. I just know I've got that name ringing over and over and over in my head. So would you understand a gentleman by the name of Brian? Brian, stop saying it. Okay. Hey, thank you. And would Brian be on the earth plane, my love? I do feel as though I need to connect with Brian on the earth plane. Right, lovely, thank you. Right, would you understand, where as this gentleman's coming forward, right, and he's referencing Brian, would you understand where he's kind of referencing the fact that a foot needs to be placed in a certain part of Brian's anatomy? Right, we'll put it that way, I'll be polite and behave myself. Okay, and that he just seems to be... It's what I use on church, that, you can get away with it. He's referencing the fact that it's cave, how can I put it? Would you understand where, with regards to this Brian, there's all this kind of opportunity and potential for change and potential for kind of movement and growth, but he just seems to be doing sweet FE to kind of grasp that and kind of, run with the ball. And he's saying, if he was in the earth plane, certainly, this gentleman, there would be none of that happening. Now, I'm also being made very, very aware of a lovely lady that's coming forward here. I do feel as though I'm on a grandmotherly kind of link with this, but on mother's side of the family, I certainly have to be on the... that side of the family. Now, she is making me very, very aware when you understand where this lady would have passed with a cancerous condition, but I do feel as though it would have been lodged within kind of the stomach or bowel area, just under the lower part of my body here, as I'm linking with this lovely soul. He's kind of tying in knots here. Would this make sense to you? Lovely, thank you. Because it's just making us very, very aware. Now, as this lady's coming forward, very, very short in height, this lady, and she's making us very, very aware of her hair. She must have been very, very proud of her hair, very, very tight curls here. And very stern, this lady, as she's kind of stood there, certainly kind of carried herself that way. She has the look of being very, very stern. It's kind of like peering over the glasses kind of things, and have the ability to kind of stop you in your tracks with a stare. But then she started talking, this lady, and I do feel as though, the love and the warmth that this lady brings forward as well. Now, would you understand changes coming in and around employment around you as well, please, Jackie? Right, now, these are positive changes. I have to say that, you're not getting the sack on out like that. Right, but it's like kind of steps or rungs on a ladder she's showing me, and she says, finally, kind of after a tremendous amount of effort, starting to climb those steps. This makes sense. Would you understand a recent engagement around yourself as well? I'm being made very, very aware of a ring being placed on a finger here. This lovely lady, she's literally doing... There will be, sweetheart, remember I've said it, because she's literally doing backflips. Right? Now, if not an engagement, I want kind of, it's either a recent kind of coming together, a recent partnership being formed. No, it's an engagement. I've got the ring being placed on the finger, so can you just bear with me? And remember, I've said that as well. Who's William? Bill. William, but he got Bill. Just get the name of that. William being brought forward. Yeah, so he wants to pop in and say hello. Right. Would you understand as well, just as this lovely lady's stepping away, and I will leave you with this lovely gentleman's vibration. He's referencing a house move. Now, I don't feel for 1 minute this is connecting to you directly, but you must also understand somewhere very, very close within your vibration where there's talk of a house move or a shift in property or something to do with that, with this Masons. It's kind of, yeah, it's still very much up in the air at the minute. It's still kind of, we're not sure and we're talking about it. He's very, very keen for this to kind of take place. He's kind of like fresh start, you know, and moving forward as well. So with that, I'll leave you with all the love in the world from that lovely soul, and thank you very much. You're welcome.
And now you can all understand why I like Michael. Because you see, I managed to get into film nearly 10 minutes there.
Right. I'm going to pause my cam for 2 seconds to get a drink. Because my mouth's gone very dry. So I'll be 2 seconds and I'll be back with you guys, okay?
No problem.
Said that, you know, how do I pause it, right? Do I do it?
Just go back up to the cam and tell it that you don't want to share your cam. There you go. That'll do. And now we can still hear you though. Uh-huh. Right. So it's down to me for a little while, is it? Who are we going to? Come on, let's have somebody that I'm not normally.
Sharon is one you don't know.
Sharon is one I don't know. Okay, Sharon.
Maybe the second time here.
Yeah, come on then, Sharon. Let's see. Okay, Sharon, can you hear me all right? Sharon's run away now.
I think she's on. Sharon?
Yeah. Hi, Sharon. Is it okay if I come and talk to you? Thank you very much indeed. I was going to ask you to put it in capitals, but there you go. Right, Sharon, I've got a gentleman and a lady stepping forward from Spirit. Now, I've got a feeling this could be both on a grandmother and grandfather connection. I might be wrong, but they are coming very, very close together. So the thing is that they're telling me that around and about you, somebody has a lot of medical problems. I'm feeling very much lower back problems and leg problems. Do you understand that? Okay, I've also got somebody who had arthritis in the hands because I've got this going on. So I need somebody who passed the Spirit after they had arthritis in the hands. Okay, they're also talking about the fact that at the minute you need to start taking better care of your health. Do you understand that as well? Okay, they're also talking as well about, I don't know if somebody around you is looking for employment or looking for a change of employment, but I feel as if they're talking a good time. I don't actually think that they're getting their backside off the chair to do anything about it, but if somebody was to come and give them a new job while they're lying on the chair, then they'd be a happy bunny. Okay, yeah, the thing is, I think that they need to either shut up or pull up, you know what I mean? And that's what I'm being told. This gentleman stepping forward now, the gentleman that I'm being shown, I don't know if I know he smoked because he's shown as the yellow nicotine fingers, but I feel as if he was quite a stern character in the fact that he just, if he decided that it was a no, then it was a no. You could try and change his mind. There's always a first time, he said. But the thing is, though, that he was quite a nice man when you met him. But if he made his mind up, he'd made his mind up. He said, now, there's a situation, right? Now, is talking about there's something around it about you where you have to make your mind up. All right? You have to make your mind up and you have to stick to it. Because I think, like, every day you wake up, you flip to the other side of the fence. All right? So it's flip-flop, flip-flop. Oh, there's Michael back. And that's basically the way things is going on. And you need to get that sorted. Right. Sharon, can I give you Catholic connections back in your family? But I've got to go back with these, maybe towards grandmother's level. All right, because somebody's clicking the rosary. So I've got to say that there must be something that's got you a little bit worried at the moment. And I feel as if not only has it got you worried, but you really can't do anything about it. And it's but it's still got you worried. Does that make sense? Right, okay. It's like it's a situation that's happening, and you would like to go in and sort it out, but you can't because it's really nothing to do with you. But that's telling me that it's just causing you it's causing you quite a bit of aggravation. But you'd like to go in and sort it out, but you can't. Well, it's going to get sorted out, but possibly not the way that everybody is expecting. Right. Have you got? I was going to say, have you got smells in your house? We have usually when I go to the toilet. But have you got like strange smells like roses and tobaccos and things like that in your house when there's none of them things around? Because I feel as if it's got to be grandmother, but what I'm feeling is that stupid rose scent that all used to wear to cover the smell of pee. What the heck was it? The floral stuff. I'm getting a very, very, very. It smells like Zoflora, the disinfectant. But I'm getting that kind of smell coming through. I also want to say that they're talking about somebody being sitting on the end of your bed as well. Now, I've got a lady, and she's also telling me it's her that strokes your hair. Does that make sense? Potpourri, Julie, in a minute. Right, okay, because this lady was telling me that she strokes your hair because, like, she used to sit and brush your hair. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay. Because she's just coming back. She's back to tell you that she's all right now. Okay, and all right, okay. She's a nice lady. Had a bit of a sense of humour. This lady, could that be correct? Right, because I'll tell you why. Because did you hold her hand when she passed the spirit, or you were there when she passed the spirit? Would that be correct? And she said that through all the tears, that you sort of gave her permission to go. It was like, it's okay, it's your time, it's all right for you to go. Yeah, she says, thanks very much, but I'd already gone. Right? Because it was just the meat suit that was left eaten. But, and this is the thing as I'm going to bring forward as the validation before we close it. She said that when you left the room and you went into the hallway or passageway outside, you said something to her then. That's the words that she'll always remember. Thank you very much indeed. And with that, I'm going to pull back, leave Spirit's love, and say thank you for letting me share part of your life with everybody in the chat room. Good night and God bless to you. Thank you, Sharon. And I'm going to say to Darlene, there we go, because that's now up to 1:30. And I'm going to let Darlene come in and stop the recording.
Yes, okay, everybody. First, we're going to quick thank you to Eric and Michael for being on. Michael, I do hope it wasn't too much of a scary experience, and you do agree to come back again.
Absolutely. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Great. All right. Everybody, thank you in the chat room for being here. For my co-host, Jennifer, and Brian was very, very quiet for most of the show. Say good night, ladies and gentlemen.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Eric. Thank you very much, Michael. Wonderful, wonderful show.
Thank you, sir. No problem at all. We'll speak to you later.
More than welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you.